So they take me to the dentist's office in full makeup, wearing a brown hoodie, and I'm in full costume otherwise. And we go into the dentist's waiting room, and I'm talking and checking in, and there's a lady there, and she's sitting in the waiting room, but she's not looking up. She's holding a newspaper in front of herself and kind of flicking through the paper and stuff like that. And she flips a page, and she kind of does one of these things and holds up the paper, and she doesn't know what to make of it.
What's up, everybody? Ryan from JoBlo.com coming to you from Crystal Lake Nightmares, a convention in Los Angeles that celebrates 45 years, Friday the 13th. I'm here to talk to your favorite final girls, victims, and slashers about their time at Camp Blood. Along the way, we're going to get some cool behind-the-scenes stories and their thoughts on the legacy of this beloved horror franchise 45 years later. So let's ignore the warnings of the locals and take a trip back to Camp Crystal Lake. So for starters, I just kind of want to go back to the beginning of the career and ask what got you into stunt work and acting?
Stunt work, I read an article about Hal Needham when I was like 11 or 12 years old. He's a very famous LA stuntman. He helped found the Stunts Unlimited. And I just remember reading that article and being a big fan of, I loved watching action movies on TV when I was a kid. Wild Wild West, I loved his fight scenes, and I loved Star Trek and the fight scenes in there.
Absolutely.
As corny as they may seem now, but
they're a blast.
But I love that stuff, and so I just tacked it away in the back of my head as something I'd like to do. And I was hoping to have a pro football career, but I blew my knee out in college.
Oof.
And so that was the perfect opportunity to look into becoming a stuntman. And the weird thing about it is that there was just a series of things that all fell into place, like so I didn't even have the plane fare to get to LA, and then I got my income tax return back.
Yeah.
It was almost the exact same price as the plane ticket.
Really?
My sister was living in Los Angeles at the time, so I was going to go stay with her, and it turns out her next door neighbor was a property master on Fall Guy, the TV series.
Oh, no kidding.
And so he gave me the phone number of a stunt guy on the show. That stunt, I spoke to him. He gave me the phone number of a stunt guy in Vancouver. There were very few at the time because the industry hadn't really taken off there yet.
Sure, yeah.
And so while I was in LA at the time, we went to the Wax Museum, and I got a picture of myself standing in front of the Christopher Reeves exhibit with him coming out of a phone booth, pulling his shirt open.
Right.
So I go back to Vancouver. I phone the fellow on the other stunt guy, John Wardlow, who just passed away, and talked to him for like 2 hours, and he set me up with another stunt guy to meet, and I had really the only training facility because I was still in university, and I could get access to the gymnastics gym so we could practice on the trampoline and do all that, and I had video camera, and nobody had a video camera back there. Anyway, first movie I work on, Superman Freeze.
That's awesome.
They see me and they go, geez, you'd be a really good double for Christopher Reeves, who I ended up doubling a couple times over the years. So, and then Stephen J. Kennel moved to Vancouver with Jump Street, Wise Guy, all those series. Mm-hmm. And I was working sometimes 3 times, on 3 different shows in one day. So my career just took off, and I kind of grew with the industry in Vancouver, and the rest is history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And kind of a full circle moment with that photo too. How cool.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I got some great shots that I took on the set of Superman 3 that I really cherish and stuff. But yeah, it was funny how it all just came together to get me into the business. It was meant to be.
Yeah. And speaking of full circle moments, you had already squared up against Jason in Jason Takes Manhattan before you made your way into your own performance. How did that experience prepare you to step into Jason's shoes?
You know what? I call them suit jobs. I was always getting suit jobs because of my size and stuff. So I was a Sasquatch on like Guyver, and a robot on Outer Limits, and zombies on Cabin in the Woods, and on and on and on. Kind of
Sure.
So when I worked on number 8, I was the stunt coordinator and the stunt double for Kane, and I gave myself the job of the fry cook at the diner.
Right.
So I'd had past experience with the franchise. When Freddy vs. Jason came to Vancouver, I was being interviewed for the stunt coordinating job. And the line producer that I was talking to suddenly said, well, would you be interested in auditioning, to play Jason? And first words out of my mouth were, well, what about Kane? Because I was anticipating working with him again, and we had gotten along great on number 8. And anyway, they auditioned me for Jason, and I got the part. So, again, the rest is history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Jason is a character of very few words, obviously, but has such a presence.
Right.
How did you go about conveying personality and menace without an ounce of dialogue?
Well, you know what? The costumes really help you find the persona of the character. So as soon as you put on, a werewolf suit or a Jason suit, it helps you find the character. And with Ronnie Yu's help, because Ronnie had a very specific idea in mind of how he wanted Jason to move and stuff, you develop the movement, and 90% of our communication is body language.
Right.
So even though the only thing you could really see on me that's real in Freddy vs. Jason is one eye, because the other eye was fake and it was glued into the inside of the mask.
Right.
I could only ever see out of one eye.
Jason mask.
So it's about posture. It's about, if I lean in, I'm being aggressive. If I go back, I'm retreating. So you learn that body language playing these other costume characters, these stuff, and it makes it easier to transition into, of course, playing Jason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And through the process of Freddy vs. Jason, what was the most physically demanding scene for you to film?
You know what? The hardest part is actually sinking into the lake at the end. Everything else I'd done before, but that scene, because you're filming in a tank, they had filled the water with chlorine and debris or stuff like that, and Ronnie wanted for me to keep my eye open while I was sinking, and of course you have to keep both eyes open. So while I was doing that, I like by the third, fourth take, the chlorine was really burning my eyes, and I remember how hard it was to try and keep my eye.
I imagine, man.
But that was the most uncomfortable thing that I had to do. Yeah, I mean, I had it easy because I had a stunt double, Glenn Ennis, who did a great job, and Doug Tate did the walk out of the water with the head, and so I kind of got the star treatment on Freddy vs. Jason because it was a bigger budget version. And we had main unit, second unit. And so for me, it was one of the easiest gigs I've had, but it was one of the ones everybody knows.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite behind the scenes moments or stories you could share with our audience?
I guess my favorite is there was only one day that I had to wear the full face makeup with the fake teeth. And it was for the scene when Kelly Rowland lists the masks in the back of the van.
Oh, yeah.
So the only day that I had that on, they forgot to put Vaseline on my teeth, and when they put the fake teeth in, and then they pulled them out, I have a bridge, and it pulled it out. So now the effects guys, who work extremely long hours, we're so sorry. They felt so bad, and they wanted to get me into a dentist right away to get it put back in. So they take me to the dentist's office in full makeup, wearing a brown hoodie, and I'm in full costume otherwise, and we go into the dentist's waiting room, and I'm talking and checking in, and there's a lady there, and she's sitting in the waiting room, but she's not looking up. She's holding a newspaper in front of herself and kind of flicking through the paper and stuff like that. And so I sit down across from her. I'm waiting for my appointment, and she flips a page, and she kind of does one of these things and holds up the paper, and she doesn't know what to make of it. And so I spoke in my normal voice. I go, don't be afraid. I go, this is all just makeup. I had an accident. And she lowers the newspaper. She goes, oh my God, I'm so worried. I thought they found you in a sewer. So that was pretty fun.
Excellent. I mean, out of context, I'm sure that must have been quite jarring.
Yes.
And did you have any favorite kill scenes to perform?
Well, I always say my favorite kill was the folding bed.
Yeah.
Because everybody expected the guy to get stabbed, and we did a great job of that, I thought, but nobody expected the bed folding, which I think the audience really appreciated. I know I did.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it.
Do you remember the first time you saw yourself in full costume and makeup?
First time I saw myself in full costume and makeup was actually, we were doing costume tests, makeup tests, and they filmed me walking. So that was the first time I saw myself. I remember the first night of filming was the night on where Jason walks down Elm Street, and you see his shadow kind of coming up along. And I remember that being a really special night because everybody, the crew, hadn't seen Jason yet. Right. So everybody was reacting and making a big deal out of it and stuff. And I think I might have signed my first autographs. But yeah, that was a very memorable night.
And you mentioned signing an autograph there. I was going to ask if you have any favorite fan interactions, since we're here kind of celebrating the fandom, celebrating 45 years.
Yeah, you know what? I love, because there were people in my life that inspired me, and I'm still working. I have goals in life that I'm still working towards and everything. But people perceive, you kind of made it or whatever, and I try to, I just tell people, go for your dreams. Don't let things hold you back. So make those choices that keep taking you in the direction you want to go. And if you really love something, you'll eventually get there. So I like to inspire people, and I like to think that I do that when I meet fans who are into filmmaking or into the horror genre, and want to get out there and make their own movies. And now it's getting so much more easy. Sure. I mean, it's still a pain in the ass, but it's going to get easier and easier as time goes by.
And so outside of this series, you've been a part of an amazing range of massive projects.
Yeah.
Is there any personal favorites that kind of feather in your cap roll? I mean, you mentioned Superman, so I got to assume that's one.
Yeah, Superman 3 was, of course, memorable because it was my first job and first time being on a big budget set. And by the way, back then they were burning real car tires for ambient smoke.
Good.
So that's all how far the industry's come and stuff. But I've got so many great memories of working in the film business. The 13th Warrior was one of the hardest stunt coordinating jobs I've had. We had 80 to 100 stunt people, I think, on certain days. We worked 6 days a week. We were on location working like minimum 16-hour days. And I always told the stunt guys on that show, this will be one you're glad you did it once it's done.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And getting to work with, I got to work with Brad Pitt a couple times in one Legends of the Fall, and the big shootout at the end, which I love, and people recognize me in. So there's many great memories.
And what would you say is the most challenging or risky stunt you performed?
Challenging. I'm thinking of as soon as you said that, it made me think of the opening in Hideaway when I was doubling Jeff Goldblum. And there's a scene where they're driving down the mountain. They've had a bad time at the cabin and they're going home early. And all of a sudden you've got a gravel truck driver driving up the mountain and he falls asleep. It sort of into the other lane. So I had to come in at like 50 miles an hour, sliding towards a gravel truck and hit it and then spin off 360 and go over the side of the road. And I remember being concerned because if I came in too deep, it would just T-bone me, and the T-forces there are huge. And if I went too shallow, it would ruin the shot. And I remember nailing it in the first shot, like right in the crosshairs of the camera where we wanted it, and feeling pretty good about that. Yeah, everybody was nervous about it. And I remember people coming out to set to watch it that you were working, stunt people. And so, that kind of tells you that, it was a good stunt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, man. That takes serious guts.
It didn't seem like it at the time, but I look back on it and I'm like, it was a good one.
That's extremely cool. Obviously, you are in the most famous versus in horror, Freddy versus Jason. I'm sure you get this question all the time, but if your Jason could face off against another horror icon, who would you want to go against?
Ooh. I thought about this. Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, yeah. I think it's just called the Creeper.
The Creeper. So I often thought it would be cool to team or pit Jason against the Creeper.
Yeah.
I really like the Creeper character. And those two, they're supernatural. We don't know what all their powers are, kind of thing, right?
Right.
I mean, Jason certainly showed a lot more strength in Freddy vs. Jason than he did in the other movie, for sure. So I think that would have been a cool one.
And lastly, since we're here celebrating 45 years of this iconic character in this iconic series, I wanted to ask you what you think makes Jason have such staying power in everyone's pop culture minds, that it's been cemented this hard for 45 years.
He was a unique character in the beginning. People hadn't seen somebody like him. So that combined with his history, I think fans have found a sympathetic bone in their body for Jason. He lost his mother. He was bullied, and certainly in Freddy versus Jason, he's manipulated by Freddy.
Right.
And so there's he's a very vicious killer. But in my version, anyway, of Jason, there's the fans have found a sympathetic bone in their body for him. He's relatable.
I wanted to get into the Freddy versus Jason of it all and ask how you came to be cast in that film and kind of what your audition process was like.
Okay, so I think what happened with me is that because of, I think it was just because I think the producers and filmmakers, because Scary Movie had come out and was a success, they reached out and asked if I'd be interested in playing this character named Stubbs in the movie. And I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada, and that's where we shot Freddy versus Jason. And so it was an opportunity for me to go home and hang out with family. My wife and all my kids are from there. And I thought, and I get to be in kind of an iconic film. So that's what drew me to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were a fan of these series going into it. Were you more of a Freddy guy or a Jason guy?
I would say that I definitely was more aware of Jason than I was Freddy, but I mean, I wouldn't say that I was a huge fan of either. I mean, I like all movies. I just was never a huge horror genre follower. I just, I enjoyed the movies, but if I was to look back and think of what movies in my head that were a little bit more horror, I would say that the sort of the Omen movies and all those are the ones that stick in my head a little more. But I had seen all the Friday the 13th movies and stuff, and yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of cool to be killed by the iconic Jason Voorhees.
That's a real feather in your cap. I got, and I did want to actually talk about your death scene. Up until that point, like, your character is one of the ones that fans really connect to, and so to see you get taken out is always such a bummer, man. What was filming that scene like for you? Kind of what was it physically demanding? Kind of what went into that day?
Well, that particular day wasn't demanding. It was just long because of the process of putting all the melted face makeup. Everything was practical. So I think that makeup was about 6 hours in a chair, even though it doesn't look like it. Ken Kirzinger, who played Jason Voorhees, I've known for a long time. He was a well-known stuntman in Vancouver, so doing the scene with him was great. It was easy. It's funny because the character, what I was really hoping when I first read this script was that I knew that Stubbs was kind of, I did a lot of exposition on who Jason Voorhees was for the new audience, and for the, I've obviously in the movie I explained to the kids exactly who he was.
Right.
So that was one of those things where I was like, it would have been great if Stubbs could have been a little more part of really, really saving one of these kids right before Jason was about to kill them. Now, that kind of was an instance with Chris Marquette, but I would have liked to have battled him a bit more, Jason. I would have liked to have gone out as a little bit more of a heroic character. You know what I'm saying? So that, if I was to change anything, that would be the only thing.
Have you thought about if Stubbs had survived that encounter, where would that character be today?
Well, I think that he would now be the chief of police of that town. Or would he be retired? How long has it been? I can't. Yeah, right. No, I think Stubbs was. I think Stubbs was just a guy. Maybe he came from a background of a family who have been in the police force, and maybe he. I think that he was trying to do his job with dignity, and I think that he was really there to serve and protect people. So I think he would have gone on to have a really great career in law enforcement.
And a couple quick face-off questions. If you could face off against any other horror icon, who would you want to match up against?
Well, because I took on Jason, I'd be interested to take on Freddy Krueger. Right? Mike Myers would be an interesting one. Yeah. Maybe I could take down Mike Myers.
And bare knuckle brawl, Stubbs versus Fitzgibbon, who wins?
I think Fitzgibbon would take Stubbs. Yeah. Fitzgibbon's a little more owly. Yeah. Especially with moths in his body.
Fair enough.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And lastly, since we are here celebrating 45 years of this beloved franchise, what do you think it is that gives Jason its staying power in pop culture?
Wow. It kind of feels like he was the first, right? It sort of feels like that franchise was the first. Just to like an iconic look. The stories were good. Just enough of story about character, but also the slasher aspect of it, I think really helped. Yeah, I just think that it's really cool that, yeah, it's an interesting question because I never thought about that, but it is really the longest running slasher franchise, right? So good for you. Good for you, Mr. Sean Cunningham. That's right. I was like, oh, I should have yes. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Yeah.
So that's going to do it for me at Crystal Lake Nightmares. From JoBlo.com, I have been Ryan Coltrera. Stay safe out there, campers.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.